Hello and welcome to the Internet of Things Made Simple. I'm Larry Humor. This is episode number 19. Thanks for joining us. As always, shout out to our new listeners. There's been a ton in March. Welcome aboard. Check out our webpage, theinternetofThingsMadeSimple.com, which has some phenomenal, stupendous, incredible, whatever word you want to use, information about IoT, including some great links to podcasts, ebooks, and my book. And as always, I humbly ask, subscribe to this podcast using your favorite podcast service. In this episode, we're going to cover the second part to our Smart Food series. In the first one, as you recall, we focused more on how food is created. So whether that's a fruit or a vegetable, we covered from the seed time and how it's delivered to grocery stores. In the second part, we're going to cover how IoT is changing the operation of restaurants and how food is served and delivered in general. And this includes how it's helping restaurants drive traffic to their place in a time when you can get just about anything either delivered to your home or you can pick up some nutritious, scrumptious food directly from your grocery store. To open, though, we're going to look at something that involves a swear word. Now, I'm not against using profanity. I do it more often than I probably should. It really helps to get your point across on many different occasions. If you're in traffic and someone's pissing you off, dropping an F-bomb is much more effective than not. At least I think so. One popular Twitter user combines both IoT and profanity. Now, I'm not going to use the actual word. Let's just say their handle is the Internet of Poop. If I were to use another word instead of poop, begins with an S. Now, the poop fellas have a point that I've made on several occasions. Many early inventions in the world of IoT have not made life better. They're solving problems that don't exist, and in many cases, they add a level of complexity that makes the product much harder to use than its dumb equivalent. In many cases, you're just able to take out an existing product, open the box, and start using it. By making products smarter by adding connectivity, you now have to do things like create an account, connect them to your Wi-Fi network, even do lengthy updates. It's kind of similar to getting a new game for your Xbox or PlayStation. In simpler times, you just opened the box, snapped in the game, and started to play. Now many games require a 30 to 40 minute download just to update to be used. Now, I'm not going to say that making things smarter by adding connectivity doesn't make them better. That would kind of defeat the purpose of not only this podcast series, but even what I've been doing for the last 2 decades for a living. Now, I believe that adding connectivity to things like watches has improved health, IoT has improved communication, and it's made things safer for millions of people. However, we need to ensure that we're doing it right. This came to light when it was announced recently that Nike's smart shoes started to brick during a recent update. In case you're wondering what bricking is, or what a brick is in this case, some updates to devices, so think phones, laptops, and now apparently shoes, can cause issues that makes the item as useful as a brick. It might not power up, it might freeze, it basically becomes unusable. What was kind of interesting about the shoes, though, is that you would expect that if a smart shoe were to brick, it would just take away some of the over-the-air functionality, like recording the number of steps you walked. No, Nike really bricked these shoes, as they couldn't even be laced now. It appears their update damaged the lace engine, which I'm saying in air quotes, to the point that it couldn't even be tied up by hand. Now, I'm sure Nike's going to look after their customers, but that isn't the point. We need to first ensure that adding connectivity to a device truly adds value, and we also need to ensure that less of our products become bricked, especially when updates are forced upon us by the manufacturer. So it brings up a good point. Is much of our industry really just the Internet of Poop? Well, I'm not going to say that, but I do think there's enough of this out there, the poop, to justify that positioning to a certain extent. Here's my ask. I ask all manufacturers, put more effort into your frickin' products. Ensure that security is enabled by default, and ensure that the connectivity that you're forcing upon us or adding truly adds value to the product. Otherwise, leave the frickin' connectivity out of it until you know how to do those things. When we come back from a short break, we're going to look at how IoT is changing the world of restaurants, including how it's creating the smart kitchen, how it is improving operations, and how it's improving the overall experience of eating at a restaurant, including how this starts before you even get out of your car. Back in a few seconds. And welcome back. From the most basic standpoint, all kitchens are really the same. There's a stove, there's a fridge, there's tools to work with like knives and bowls, and there's someone to make it all happen. However, there's a big difference between the average home cook's kitchen and one used by a professional chef, not even talking about the fact that there's a freaking professional chef in there. They do this for a living. They've trained for it. So obviously their kitchen's a little different. Due to the nature of their environment, kitchens in restaurants use much more expensive equipment and often customized equipment. So it makes sense that the company or the restaurant owner is going to want to ensure they're getting maximum production out of their appliances and that all their tools they need to use are always available. Smart appliances in terms of residential are not new. Stoves, fridges, slow cookers, whatever else comes up now, toasters, I imagine, they're readily available. I'm not sure if everyone sees a value in those, and we've talked about that earlier, but they are available. Now, let's talk about the stove. The stove, considering it's important to a restaurant, is one device that adding connectivity makes a heck of a lot of sense. Sensors allow restaurant owners to know things like how many hours it's operated for, how is its heating times, is it heating up faster or slower, is there any issue like excessive power or gas used, which could indicate a possible failure is imminent. As well, IoT is being used to improve the usability of the stove, even allowing busy kitchens just to wave their hands to start burners or even starting an oven with their voice. And finally, if a chef has a really long cook cycle, like a slow cook or something like that, they can start a burner or an oven or a section of a stove remotely from home using a smartphone app. Along the same lines, smart fridges are becoming commonplace in restaurants of all sizes. Being notified of a nice spike or a nice drop in temperature helps to prevent unwanted spoilage and contamination, as well as excessive power usage. These solutions also use AI to learn the patterns of a restaurant, so it knows that after a certain hour, the door doesn't tend to open so much, and they can lower the temperature of the fridge, or vice versa during a peak time or a hot time in the summer, they can run the fridge at a higher temperature, lower temperature in that case, to account for the number of door openings. AI also helps with another kind of fridge, the customer self-service one. You walk into like a Subway or something, and you open the little door and take your own drink out. That one is commonly found in those kind of restaurants. Sensors are allowing for detailed information, not just about the fridge, but about the customer. So they're using cameras and AI so they can tell you that males under 18 go for this kind of drink. And they can also tell you consumption might change with patterns of the weather, for instance. So hotter days tend to drive more iced tea, as an example. I don't know if it does, but just as an example. I don't know about you, but I often look for things around my kitchen. Everything from my favorite frying pan to knives I use. I can never seem to find any of these things. Now imagine trying to keep track of items in a major kitchen. RFID tags, yes, the same ones that can help you keep track of your keys, are being used to make sure items are where they're supposed to be, and if they leave the area where they're supposed to be, you can be notified. In the past, I've spoken many times about the power of sensors, and I've compared it to your mom growing up. So think back to when you were a little kid. Did it not seem like your mom had spy sensors everywhere? It seemed like mine did. I mean, she just always seemed to know what you were up to. Well, the reality is that she probably knew you, and you really weren't good at hiding things. In real life, though, sensors give you that same kind of power that moms seem to have. They let you see things when you're not there, when you're not looking, and even if you're at home. The dining area is the first place that this comes to mind. So light sensors might let you know if too much sunlight is blasting in, or if it's too cold, or if a window has been open, whatever you want to know. Next part is when you have food, you have a battle against bugs and rodents. Motion sensors can let you know if they're around. And similarly, door open sensors can let you know if people have arrived, maybe your early morning staff or your cleaning crew, or they can let you know if a door was opened when it wasn't supposed to be. Imagine your whole business is built around a machine. So think stove oven at a pizza place. I mean, if that thing goes down, pizzeria pretty much goes down. Vibration sensors let an owner know when the oven is working and when it's not. Finally, every restaurant needs water for cooking and cleaning and other things. But you don't want it everywhere. Water present sensors let you know if things like a pipe have burst or if there's flooding in a certain area. On to the next point. Now, I don't drink a lot much anymore, and I never really was that much of a drinker. However, I've spent enough times in pubs and bars to know the importance of the keg and the dispenser to the bottom line of a restaurant or a bar. During a busy rush hour, that keg running dry means a lot of bad things. First, you're going to have a lot of pissed off, half-drunk guys, and you're going to lose a lot of revenue. Smart keg solutions are letting owners and managers know when a keg is at a certain level, And it even goes as far as to pre-order to the distributor, and it will let you know if there's excessive movement, like someone's trying to steal it, like some college kid looking for some heroism, I guess. Equally important to the keg is dispensing. Now, I can pour a decent beer, but I've seen automated solutions out there that would pour as well as a 30-year bartender would. Equally important to the beer side of the house is the spirits and liquor side. Smart bottle tops do two things. One, they ensure the right amount of liquid is poured for the drink, which helps to maximize profit for the owner. A bartender can't know every drink. I guess some of them do, but imagine there's a certain drink that no one can ever remember. They can punch it into the system and it will light up the top of the bottle that's supposed to be used, and that will make sure the drink is made properly to keep up better service. Now, finally, we have the glass. One doesn't think of the glass, especially it's not one you have for yourself. This is not, your favorite mug at home. This is just a standard glass used at a restaurant. You don't think of them as being smart. One solution that I mentioned in the book is from our friends at Malibu Rum. This glass has a special bottom. So when you decide that you really want another one, you just turn the bottom, and that must have some kind of a sensor or a mechanism that sends a message using short haul back to the bartender saying, please fill me up. I have to admit, that does sound cool and amazing, and apparently it doesn't work at my house because I started turning the bottom of my coffee mug, and my wife didn't really seem to give a crap, so apparently it only works at the bar. In the previous podcast, I guess part 1 of this series, if you want to call it that, we talked about how IoT is changing how food is grown. During that episode, we hinted that many restaurants are starting to grow their own produce and herbs to maximize freshness. This is especially true in northern climates or a place that is not very close to a local farm that might have it year-round. Increasingly, restaurants are buying local greenhouses, though. They're using IoT to get a better understanding of what items might be ready, so the chef or the person planning the menu can look up to see, is that certain herb ready, and if so, I can incorporate it into my menu this week. They're also getting a better idea of what's not growing to be able to change menus going forward, perhaps with their distributor for ordering other products. Also in the first part, we mentioned how food is tracked during all aspects of the journey, from farm to table. This is done using RFID tags and other technology, and that allows for much better notification of issues and for restaurants not to throw out things that are actually usable. In terms of decreasing waste, those same RFID tags are heavily used for the dates of the food, but probably not in the way you're thinking. Now, imagine the walk-in fridge at a busy restaurant. You could have products coming in and out all the time, different products marinating. It could be really confusing. I know at our house things go to waste, so I can only imagine at a restaurant. These tags allow whoever's looking after operations to input a best before or a best used date into the system, and this allows for notifications that could either prevent spoilage or make sure that all the products that are used meet the standard that the restaurant wants to have. These restaurants, though, also have another interesting benefit, as they can help your marketing team. Now, imagine you're running a stand that makes smoothies, and you just got an alarm that you haven't been moving through your strawberries nearly as fast as you would have hoped. Throwing out inventory is bad for the environment and bad for your bottom line. Instead, you can now get notified early, put together this quick little mini promo to lower down the cost to the customer of anything involving those strawberries, at least until your inventory gets back under control. I remember asking a restaurant manager one time how important was the use of food scales to his business. He showed me some quick numbers that just a few extra grams of sauce or cheese can pretty much wipe out a lot of his profit, almost as bad as if his employees were stealing, which kind of shocked me a little bit. Smart scales can record how much food was used per serving, and this allows for an area of cost reduction and for teaching for your employees. Finally, no matter what you do, some waste is inevitable. No one wants to eat every part of a fruit or a vegetable. It's the shell and the skin. No one might not want those things. Smart systems are now able to determine the food and break it down into a form of waste that ends up being a combination of water and sewer-safe compost. This is IoT at its best. When we come back from a short break, we're going to cover how IoT is changing the dining and food delivery space. Back in a few seconds. And welcome back. As I hinted in the previous episode, where it was the one we talked about food delivery options, where were those in college? Could you not have imagined how great a Big Mac would have been after you're out drinking at 2 o'clock in the morning and you really weren't in any shape to drive? I really feel jealous. I'm not even so much jealous of the internet and things that people have now. That's what I'm really jealous about. But anyways, I'll move on here. You can get virtually any food delivered now in most major cities. That means there's less incentive for you to get your butt off the couch and to go into the restaurant. On top of that, this is equally true because there's many different gourmet to-go options at your local supermarket, and I have to admit, many of those are quite good, and they can allow you to pick up ready-made meals. And then finally, on top of that, you have those delivery services to your home that bring easy-to-cook meals on some kind of a subscription. Does that mean that restaurants are dead? No, far from it, but it does mean they have to create much more of a total experience, and they might not be able to get away with just having good food. It seems they need to create what I call food porn. You might remember in the opening part of episode 16, I spoke about how restaurants were creating this by using artificial intelligence, including some, and I'm not really, I still haven't figured out how or why, many of them allow you to virtually eat there. Now, I made fun of this, and I did hear about it from a couple of foodies who said that I simply wasn't sophisticated enough to understand. Well, I have been to many 5-star restaurants. I don't need to imagine going to one, so I guess if that's your thing, go for it. The whole process of going out to a restaurant starts with choosing where you're going to eat. We all use Google for different things, and Google uses the GPS on your phone, and that helps you find different things. So if you're just looking for the closest McDonald's or Taco Bell, it'll bring you there. However, if you're more of a foodie, you're going to use an app like OpenTable, and I'm sure there's 20 other ones that not only give you the list of the restaurant, they allow you to reserve a table. So this is not new, but the next part is, now you're driving to the restaurant, and you get within a certain distance. The app sends you a note saying, I'm going to direct you towards your parking space. It takes you towards that spot, and it even goes as far as adding the parking to your bill at the restaurant. That also does something else. So when you pull in, the sensor in the spot will see you're there, and it will let the restaurant know you arrived. Now, the restaurant could do a few things based on knowing this information. They could have your table ready. In some cases, if you've already put a drink order in, they could have it waiting for you. If you had some kind of surprise for your date, they could have something there as well. Assuming you didn't have that kind of service, many places are also using automated greeters now. Some of them are replacing staff with solutions that allow you to check in and even enter your preferences on the screen for things like menus, so maybe you don't want spicy food, or they let you alert of allergies. Now you're seated. Going away are the old paper or laminated menus, and incoming are tablets. You're starting to see this more often, but you're starting to see it move more advanced now. They help in a number of ways. Imagine you told the restaurant, it could have been over the phone or through that app, of an allergy, say to peanuts or something. It'll make sure it eliminates any foods that has peanuts as an option. As well, if you're a regular to the restaurant, it'll know what you have ordered for the past 3, 4, 10 times. It might recommend something new based on your previous choices. The next part has to do with wine. Now, I'm far from a wine connoisseur. I have no idea, nor do I give a crap what wine goes with what. But millions of people do care, and other ones might be afraid to ask. These solutions also factor in what you might have ordered and what you're eating, and they even allow you to ask questions through the app to the wine dude, whatever they're called, the guys that bring your wine to you and whatever you call those guys. It can all be done through the app. Now, finally, I like to use all my senses when it comes to picking food, so my choice is often, hey, what the heck is that just went by? That really smells good when I order. This especially holds true for a lot of finger foods and appetizers. Some restaurants are now smartly leaving a tablet or having a way for you to place orders from the table once the menus have gone away to allow you to order those impulse items. For those of you who don't have kids, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about for this next part. If you do have kids, you dread the waiting part. You know, the kids are all pumped, they're out at a restaurant, you place your order, and then nothing happens. No food comes. Your kids are basically being peeled off the wall, they're so excited. Sure, we have iPads now, but it's kind of tough to keep a hungry kid happy, even if you do have an iPad. One new invention that many places are doing is using VR glasses. So the kid puts on these really cool set of glasses, and this keeps them occupied. The next one kind of borders on creepy to me. One of the clauses in some of these apps, and I'm sure it's on page 145, buried somewhere, is that they get to access your music, or at least your music choices. This helps them determine what kind of music their clients listen to, and they can best use that choice to incorporate it. Now, I'm thinking this probably works best at a bar. Take me as an example. I've got a pretty unique taste in wide variety of music, especially my running list, which is the one on my phone. And I can't imagine them playing like Enter Sandman by Metallica or, Back That Ass Up by Juvenile in a very fancy French restaurant. Maybe they would, but something tells me probably not. When you have kids, you often end up in not so fancy restaurants, even fast food places. Many of those are in malls and airports, and they're starting to replace a traditional tabletop with an interactive one. So, the kids can play games. If you're not from that area, you can get directions and local tips, and even enter contests using a touchscreen built into the table. Finally, your food is ready. Not all things come at the same speed. My wife has this incredible ability to order something that takes 3 to 4 times longer than what everybody else at the table has ordered. It's just a talent. I don't know how she does it. When we get all our food, it's either stone cold, while hers is hot, or she eats when we have our jackets on. Smart heating lamps are helping to balance this out. So they're keeping food warm, but they do factor in what temperature certain items can be. So if you happen to have a salad on their plate or something, they're not going to fry that up. So they kind of are a little more intelligent. And then your food's ready. Wait, is that a robot bringing it out? In many parts of the world, robots are indeed being used to bring out orders. You've had a wonderful meal. IoT does not stop there. There are many apps, mostly on the smartphone, that allow you to not only easily split the bill, but it can prevent your waiter from having to take off their shoes and count with their toes. It does all the calculations for you, and it even allows for a quick payment for each of you. The other part about payment is, who carries cash anymore? Restaurants need to be able to collect funds using point of sale at all times, and many are using cellular-based gateways to ensure that their machines are always up. You're ready to leave. The tablets, which could be at the table, can allow you to ask for things like, can you get me a container? Can you order a taxi, if you're over 80 and don't use Uber? And can you get my coat for me? As I mentioned earlier, the availability of food being delivered to your home from just about anywhere is something that is very popular with stoners everywhere. IoT is helping all aspects of this. GPS on your phone and the phone of the food delivery person allows you to keep track of your valuable food during all aspects of its journey. However, knowing where it is doesn't matter if your Thai food gets cold. Smart bags are allowing delivery people to scan their receipt, and it will adjust the heating and cooling department individually. Often they have more than one compartment on these things to ensure that the hot stays hot and the cold stays cold. And in case you're wondering, where the heck have I heard that expression before? I had to look it up. It was from a McDonald's commercial for the McDLT a long time ago. So if you remember that, you really are old. You ate at the restaurant and took things home and had leftovers, or you just had food you bought and there's leftovers. Warming the food up right ensures that the taste is just as good the second time around as it was the first. Both restaurants and the takeout guys are using takeout containers that are smart. So they have lids or the container themselves that change color to let you know when the food is at the optimal temperature for eating. When we come back from this short break, we're going to look at a number of ways that automation is changing the restaurant business. Back in a few seconds. And as always, welcome back. Thanks for sticking around with us. The first couple of ways that automation is changing the restaurant business are not exactly new, because most people have been either using them for a long time or you've at least seen somebody using them. And the first one is the smartphone ordering apps. So, people that walk up to that little express line at Starbucks and have already placed their order. It also has all the payment done. That's not new. As well, a lot of us, and painfully watching some people, by the way, have used smart touchscreens at fast food restaurants, so a McDonald's or a Wendy's, whatever, to place an order. And this can be helpful during rush hour or busy times. The next few involve some sort of robotics, and they are putting people out of work. I'll let you decide what you think about them. I'm just here to list them, so I didn't invent these. Don't yell at me for these. While I've actually never seen one in person, apparently there are restaurant baristas emerging in many areas of the world that make all kinds of beverages. They have the incredible ability, let's face it, they're a computer, to make them the exact same way each time. They use the exact same amount of liquid, sugar, whatever it might be, and that makes for a nice ubiquitous delivery right across the board. And it's also the reason why they can make the perfect hamburger. While not quite as cool, I have seen some of the robotic arms that often pick up orders. They can do things like, put sugar in coffee. They can load toppings onto a pizza. Not exactly new, but they are starting to pop up. Now, imagine a cooler that you could have brought to you remotely controlled. I think my dad and his friends who used to drink out in our garage just got very excited. Well, they're not actually the ones buying it, much to their chagrin. It's being bought by restaurants who are using them for local delivery. For now, they're still controlled by a joystick with some dude just wailing away on it, but at some point, they're going to be fully automated. They just don't do stairs. In the book, as well as in previous podcasts, I mentioned I hate those frickin' Roombas. The one at the Novatech office just has the incredible ability to eat my iPhone cable whenever I'm there. It just drives me nuts. Slightly more advanced, though, are the systems that are doing routine maintenance and routine housekeeping duties at restaurants. And that might include emptying garbage, cleaning the washroom. You get the idea. I don't know about you, but I kind of hate the drive-thrus. First, I don't usually eat the kind of food that comes from a place with a drive-thru anyways, but I can't always understand them that well. I'm not sure the person knows how bad they sound when they're yelling at you. You can't understand what they're saying anyways. Now, it might not even be a person making that really bad sound. It's very often going to be an automated solution that will take your order. One of the fastest growing takeout foods at many places, especially those places to go in the grocery store, are salads. Sure, they are healthy, and I think one of the reasons why people buy them from those places is who wants to sit there and cut up that many frickin' vegetables just to get a decent salad? Now imagine you're at a busy restaurant or one of those places that serve, hundreds of salads. How do you chop up all that stuff? It'd be boredom. So now there are machines that will do that for you, but they're even getting a little step further though, is that these machines can be fully automated. So they wash, they inspect, they cut, and they package everything for you. No longer need an employee. And what list of automation would be complete without the one that I always get yelled at the most for encouraging? It won't be long before self-driving cars get involved. Yeah, you're going to have to meet the person in your driveway or in your parking lot, so it's not perfect. They're not going to come to your door. As well, can you not imagine that a drone's going to drop off food soon? I think it's inevitable. So what happens to all these restaurant employees? Now, I think many of us have a soft spot for these jobs, as many of us started off our working lives at one. So, shout out to Mother's Pizza. I worked there in 1986. That was my first job. The reality, though, is that many of these jobs are repetitive. And in many places, it's difficult to find people. I'm all about paying people a living wage, but it does come down to cost. If you have to pay a barista, a dishwasher, a busboy $13, $15, $18 an hour, it starts to make more business sense to automate these things. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting. Anyways, hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I look forward to having you listen to more of them. Check out our Facebook page. It's the best way to get a hold of me. The Internet of Things Made Simple. We have some great material on there, including links to other podcasts, to ebooks, and to other material we've done. If we're connected on LinkedIn, drop me a note that way. And if we're connected personally, drop me a text or an email. Talk soon. I'm Larry Bohumor.